Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man.
It's official, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is an Oscar-winning film, beating Disney's 6-year consecutive streak for Best Animated Feature. Spider-Man has a long cultural legacy, beginning in the 60s with its creators Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. The story of an average guy living in New York who's bitten by a radioactive spider. There have been countless iterations of Spidey on the small and big screen, from the classic 1960s animated TV series with its notable theme tune, through to the 90s action-packed hit and numerous film reboots, not to mention its recent success in the world of video games. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is its own separate beast entirely, an animated feature-length film that was given wide international cinema release, but it has not just one Spider-Man, but multiple Spider-People. Warning, the spoiler review ahead. I'm Edwin, and I'm joined by my Video Plaza co-host, as always,
Gary.
Yeah, so this is our spoiler review of Spider-Man
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Which I always want to call Enter the Spider-Verse. For some
Yeah,
reason.
like Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we previously spoke about this on our very first episode of our podcast. But you hadn't seen it at that point.
No, I hadn't. And strangely enough, I was skeptical that an animated feature of Spider-Man could sustain itself in theaters, because I think I was sort of skeptical on the basis that I have seen other franchises, not to the extent of Marvel, but things like, even silly things like the Woody Woodpecker film was out in the, an animated feature was out in the cinema.
That kind of did a Space Jam thing though, didn't it? Wasn't it like animated over
live action?
And
I think
Roger Rabbit style.
I think what do you call it? Thingy the Bear. Yogi Bear. I think they did that with Yogi Bear.
Didn't Yogi Bear have Jason Lee, or was that... that was
Garfield.
Garfield. And was he in the Chipmunks as well?
He might have been in the Chipmunks as well.
Anyway,
we digress in a large way.
So Enter the Spider-Verse.
Like I said...
Into the Spider-Verse.
Like I said, I was really skeptical about seeing it. Then I went ahead, I did see it. And
I told you it was amazing, so you had to watch it.
Yeah, it's true. And I must admit, I think it is objectively the top 10 superhero films, that's been on the big screen kind of thing. Would you agree to that extent?
What, like every superhero film, or just Spider-Man ones?
I would say, like, if you were to give it some arbitrary ranking, like, it would be like number 10 out of all the superhero films that have ever been.
I don't know about that, but it's definitely up there in the top 50, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Very, very high in the top 50.
Well, I think it's definitely,
if you're looking at it from a Spider-Man standpoint, it would be top ranking with Spider-Man Homecoming for me, with all the others underneath.
Well, I think some of the other sort of, when you think about superhero sequel films, certain decades, especially, pre kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe, sequels are kind of like retreads in a way. And because it's completely fresh and original, and in a way, you don't even have to have seen anything or read anything of Spider-Man.
But it does help. I mean, it
does help.
Jokes in there.
It gives you a better...
Well, we're in a spoiler review, so the ending... The after credits ending sequence, where you've got Spider-Man 2099 going back to 1967, and there's a scene between Spider-Man 2099 and the Spider-Man 67 animated series Spider-Man, and they're just pointing at each other.
It's one of my favourite.
Yeah, I suppose that's funnier if you actually are aware of the original 1967 animated show.
And also if you're kind of aware of how stilted the style of animation was, and the fact
the animation on the original series was cheap.
Yeah, and also the fact
a lot of reused kind of scenes over and over again over the episodes.
Yeah, and the fact that Spider-Man wasn't the fleshed out character that we know today. He was just a do-gooder who would have been.
Yeah, but he's got radioactive blood.
Hence the the sort of the pointing, the waggling of fingers, like, "Oi, don't you do that, you naughty bastard," or something. And he's responding back, "Hey, what? Oi, don't know you pointing at me."
So into
that ain't woke.
Into the Spider-Verse introduces a lot of people to Miles Morales.
Yes.
A fairly new Spider-Man that I think was introduced in the Ultimate Comics and has now come over to the standard mainline Marvel continuity. I don't know how. I've not read them.
Well,
he's a newer Spider-Man.
Well, he's a very
young Spider-Man,
and he's very beloved as well because of all the different people who talk about, you know, Spider-Man, the different iterations and so on. That has always been cited as something that fans have always wanted to see in some form or another, and finally they have been able to see him, on the biggest spoiler, in a way, on the big screen.
The biggest spoiler now, I'm getting in there, real spoiler territory. The death of Spider-Man. Which Spider-Man did they kill? There was a blonde Spider-Man who was aimed at you as being maybe the cinematic version of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, voiced by
Chris Pine.
And they kill him off, and then you have a replacement Spider-Man turn up from another dimension or Spider-Verse and pops up, Peter B. Parker.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't realise when I spoke about this last time we were speaking about it on the podcast, but after watching it the second time, I'm kind of like, that's the real Spider-Man. That's the Spider-Man that we're supposed to identify as. He's the one that's in his 30s. He's the one who's been doing it since day one. That's the Spider-Man that's giving up, divorced from Mary Jane, wanting to throw it all away. And he's the Spider-Man that we've grown up with. He's supposed to be the mainline Spider-Man, so to speak.
I thought you were also going to reveal why he has this middle name B. Parker.
I assume it'd be Ben Parker.
Yeah, it's true.
Uncle Ben with great power. No, not that again.
Yeah.
Which I think is a paraphrase line from the film.
Also,
he's a reluctant hero who ends up training Miles Morales very reluctantly.
And also as well, having whichever form or iteration of Peter Parker it is, the fact that he dies early on increases the stakes at such an early point.
Yeah, they've killed
really
who's ever killed
Spider-Man.
I'm sure they've killed him off in the comics loads of times.
Yeah,
but in a cinematic kind of way, has he ever been killed off?
Oh well, with the Infinity War with the fading, but that was
he's not dead. We all know.
No, exactly.
We should have said spoilers for Infinity War as well. Really.
Yeah, it's true.
Thanos does one of them, and then all of them turn to dust.
True.
So we'll spoil which spider people turn up in this. We have it's not Spider Pig because that's Simpsons.
Spider Ham,
Peter Porker.
I would be interested to know whether or not they took that idea. Marvel took that idea, having seen the
possibly
notoriety of the whole Spider Pig,
or maybe
thing.
Just subconsciously at least.
Yeah, to some extent.
So you have Spider Ham.
Yeah, who's in the sort of
Porky Pig style.
Yeah, animated.
You
Porky Pig
have
style.
Spider-Man Noir, voiced by Nicolas Cage. You have Spider-Gwen.
Yes.
And you have, I can't remember what the manga one's called.
Oh, Spider... not Peter Parker, it's...
Penny Parker.
Penny Parker, that's
Penny
it.
Parker.
I was trying to think of if you were to give a female version of Peter, what would you call
So you got Penny Parker, who is basically she's not bitten by a radioactive spider. But
no, the spider.
She's got like a mental link with the spider,
which goes inside the robot, and then it helps power and give life to the robot.
Very, very convoluted, but a character that
the robot. Spoiler as well. Yeah. The robot dies, and then so she's.
You've got a very interesting take on Fisk, Kingpin, obviously for people who don't know him as Fisk. Where he's wanting to basically open up the universes so he can bring back his wife and kid. And I can't for the life of me remember what his wife's called. I assume it's his wife. They don't say whether it's his wife, but
wife and child.
Wife and child. We assume it's his wife.
Yes.
We don't find out whether they're married or partner.
Yeah.
But she is a character that is in the Daredevil TV series.
Oh, okay.
As the partner of Fisk.
Okay, that's interesting.
So yeah, who gets beaten to a pulp on the last episode of Dead? Spoiler. So it's cancelled now anyway. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, this is a very interesting take on Fisk because he's built like a brick wall and has a tiny little head. But it's a very interesting one. He's a bit of a one-note character, but he is the character that kills Spider-Man.
Well, I think being a one-note character to an extent makes him more ruthless as a villain. Because if he had, at no point does it suggest that he is regretful of his decisions and knows the devastation and the impact. He's very single-minded as a villain.
I mean, it's a very basic, thinly veiled plot when it comes to the good guys versus the bad guy. It's all the Spider-Verse stuff that makes it more interesting. The script makes it more interesting. The animation style is beautiful.
Oh yeah, the cross section of the different styles and the fact that it adheres to creating a kind of a comic book with the actual text boxes and everything like that.
Exactly.
And not in a way that you would think, if someone suggests that idea on paper, you'd think that might come across as a bit on the nose and corny. But it's by no means corny whatsoever. It's just a subtle little bits of exposition, really. It's not being too blatant and boring either with it. It's very creative.
So we should probably wrap this up. So out of should we out of 5 or out of 10?
I think 10 gives us more room to work with for future reviews.
So because this is a first review. We did do Alita Battle Angel previously, but I think that might have been out of 5.
Yeah,
but we'll forget that exists. This is our new stable form of reviewing, and we'll do it out of 10. I would give it probably a 9.5 out of 10 because anything can be made better.
Yeah.
I don't like to say anything's perfect, but this is so close to perfect. I can smell it.
I would give it a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I think that it almost would reach a 10 out of 10, but maybe it's just out of greed that I just wanted that little bit more. But that doesn't go against, that's not a mark against it necessarily. But like you said, there's always room for improvement. I think very tiny percentage of things ever really get a 10 out of 10.
Okay, so
hopefully one day we'll talk about something that I feel has got, and you feel has got 10 out of 10.
So don't forget to like and subscribe, and every Monday a Video Plaza podcast is available for your listening pleasure. Yeah,
so if you enjoy hearing us chit chat on your, listen to us on your way to work, wherever you listen to your podcast, then check us out across
we are on
platforms.
Spotify and iTunes,
Overcast,
Simplecast. We are simple. And our email,
Beyond Pod that we learned about.
Beyond Pod as well. Yeah. And our email address is videoplazapodcast@gmail.com. And that's it from me.
Yeah, we look forward to hear whatever from you next time.